So getting some gains in here, like some of this is resolving just a little bit better, but not much. I wouldn't say that's worth the extra work. Anyway, so those are your kind of like your main volume controls, or not volume controls, but render controls. The other thing I'll do is over in Sharps. Over in our material palette, I'm going to grab so the main, just to get you started, there's a volume material. Oh, actually, there's a bunch of volume materials. I'm going to do billowy smoke, so I'm going to make a billowy smoke. So in our billowy smoke, right, we can multiply our density. So another place to control your density after the fact, because there's a lot, right? So if I multiply my density, let's do 1. All right, let's just do the cool thing is if you click around, it'll change where it's actually building from. Let me turn those settings back down. This is really slow. That actually looks quite sexy. Okay. Okay. That a lot. Let's go to our this guy. Let's put our volume quality back to 5. And then what else did I drop? Noise level. Yeah, that's much faster. Up. Bam. Okay. So with my billowy smoke, I should be able to, if I do my smoke density times, this should get really, really thick. Yeah. So you can see it's super. It's just more density, right? It's just taking that density value that's already there and saying, make it 10 times this, right? So you can see. Right, because it's thicker, right, one, we're seeing that stair-stepping again, because we probably need more resolution in here. But two, like if you look at our shadows, like look how deep these shadows are now, because there's just more stuff, and that light has to penetrate more stuff, right? So it's going to make your shadows much deeper. So let's say we like our overall kind of feel of our smoke, but we want a thicker shadow, right? So that's what the shadow density is going to give us. So now our smoke is still kind of like light and wispy. We're just literally just darkening. We're just basically crushing our blacks is what it's called. You're just taking, it's like, oh, this shadow is this dark, make it 10 times darker than it should be, right? So you get like, so that's regular, increasing your density, right? So you can see like there's this really faint line out here that becomes very stark and hard because there's just more density in there, right? And then this is just increasing our shadow, right? So if we go from here to here, right, we can still see, and we're actually getting a little bit more detail up in here than here by increasing our shadow. But that's pretty much all you need as far as starting out with the volume shader. Yeah? And you can play around with, there's a bunch of other ones. There's wispy smoke, but billowy smoke is mostly what people use just in general. Or they'll roll their, they'll build their own. Yeah. Okay. So I might try to chuck this on the farm to see if it works, because it's kind of nice and set up for farm. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over emitters. Emitters. Okay. So right now. Let's push this off to the side. Let's go back to our Tubulis. So, right now in our .NET, right? So we have this smoke object, which is pulling in. There we go. One, two. Yeah. I accidentally swapped those. So this smoke object is pulling in density from a SOP path, right? So I'm going to disconnect this guy, and I'm just going to make a new empty smoke object. All right, so now I have, let's make sure, I'm going to copy my division size and overall size. What did I say my overall size was? Let's just do 10, 10, and then we'll do what did I say, 0.05 for the divisions? Right, just so we get the same kind of level of density. Right, so now what I want to do is I don't want to just kind of pre-populate this container with density, right? I want to bring in an emitter, right? So a lot of you guys, like Kayla, you probably use the emitter. Michelle, you use an emitter. So what is an emitter? An emitter just takes data from SOPLAN and just dumps it into DOPLAN, right? That's kind of the bridge between the two. So for this, I'm going to come back out here, and let's do this. So the emitter is technically called a fluid source. You guys have probably already done this, but I want to take you through doing it by hand. Right, so I'm just going to plug this in here. And we have this. Let's see. We'll do that. Yeah. I think, because I have this guy turned off. Should be big. I think I turned off.
If you go to the first frame,
Try to use just a sphere. start with this sphere. It's not working with the JPEG. I was looking at it. Okay, anyway, so our fluid source will give us this sphere, right? So basically this fluid source is, it's basically combining the ISO offset with a bunch of kind of adders, right? So what it's doing is, so first of all, it's making a density and it's visualizing in smoke. We can visualize this as an ISO surface. We can visualize this as a slice of something, right? So this is our density. We're seeing density, right? So on the inside, it's hollow, which is blue, which is, there's no density. And then as we get to higher levels of density, we're seeing more red, right? So that's generally, we call this the infrared visualization, right? So blue is usually closer to 0, and red is upwards of like 1 and 2 and 3. And you can change that range. So if I were to take this density scale and start to pump it up, if I do 10, right, we see that middle ring, it's super duper red, right? Because I'm putting 10 times more density into that spot as I usually do, right? So I'm only that's this. Alright, so let's go back to, right? So if I were to take this is going to make a super crazy, amazingly boring sim. Right, because there's no variation in this at all. It's like this perfect sphere, and this is what, like, especially like I had this reaction. Like I did all this stuff when I was first, and I was like, this is boring as fuck. Like, how do you like? I'll just show you, right? It's easier to just show you, right? So let me just put a transform between this so I can control it later. One thing I'll need later as well is I want a trails. So the trail SOP is one of the notoriously poorly named nodes. So basically what it does by default, it just makes trailed copies of your object. But what generally most people use it for is just to compute velocity, right? So that velocity will be passed into this this guy, right? Make sure I'm on track with my notes. All right. So right now we have this density, and I also have velocity volume. So I'm getting a velocity volume, right? So name, bell, scale over 1. So if I go back and I make this slice, right? So let's say I do want this thing to be solid, which I kind of do, because most things that are, unless I'm doing something that's on fire on the surface, like if I want like a solid fireball or like some creature that's made of like solid smoke, like this is going to look weird, right? I'm going to have like this kind of thin layer of emission and then nothing in the middle, right? So sometimes maybe that's what you want. Like if you're doing like something like a glass sphere that's on fire, you probably, or a smoky, you probably only want that outside ring to be kind of smoky. But for this, I want like a solid kind of emission, like something's blowing up and smoke is coming out from the inside, right? So under SDF from geometry, right? SDF sign distance field. I'm going to turn off minimum distance, right, which is going to give me a little bit more here, and then I'm going to turn off empty interior, right? So this is just solid density in the center of this guy, right? So if I turn this back to smoke, like this is much more dense. So if I turn on empty interior here, we get that center bit, no empty interior. Okay. So I'm going to go back into my, I just want to do .NET. No, I'm just going to use what I have.
So what is the difference between you are using the ISO offset to create a form?
The ISO offset doesn't give me, it doesn't give me as many parameters,
Okay.
which we'll get into, because I want to show you the boring sim first, so that you know what it looks like, and then we'll work on how to make it pretty.
Okay.
So I have these microsolvers here, these gas disturbance and all that stuff. I'm going to take this away, right? Because I just want to do like a bargain basement set. Right?
Mm.
So remember, my smoke solver now is totally empty. It's just a box, right? For me to fill stuff with, right? So I'm gonna do source volume. And the cool thing about this is I think they've actually thought about this. Like these two, if we look at these two things there, their icons are the same, right? So kind of like the connectivity, like they're trying to give you a hint that these two things are supposed to work together. So I'm going to plug that into here. This, and we'll see what happens. Probably nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. So I can put in a volume path, right? So I'm just going to grab this guy and chuck it in there. Activation, scale source volume, scale source temperature, scale velocity. So boom, we get this, and it's just adding velocity, or it's adding density every single time. So you can see this thing is just getting thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, right?
That's all.
Right, so because I'm not giving it any velocity, right? I'm
Yeah.
giving it zero velocity at this point. So what I can do is, so just to walk through these, right? So this is your source smoke. You can source fluid, sink, collision, all this other stuff. So we're just going to source smoke, which pulls in density. Activation is basically when it's on and when it's off. You can keyframe this. Scale source volume, just another way to scale density. You can scale density everywhere. You can scale your temperature and you can scale your velocity, which I don't have any of right now. So let's give this some velocity. So over here, my source, I can say, I'll give me some noise. I'll give it noise and velocity. So I'm going to give it some curl noise over here. So add curl noise. So when I add my curl noise, it's going to add this. So have I showed you this visualization yet? Okay, so this is how Houdini visualizes 3D velocity, right? Velocity isn't actually curled like this. It's showing you velocity over a time period, right? Velocity is generally only a straight line, like it's just one vector. But it's just like this vector on that vector on that vector on that vector on that vector. So it's just they're just head to tail over time, right? So let's just run over here. So we should see. Right, so now we're getting some movement, right? We're getting that curl noise is now pushing that volume around ever so slightly. And let me do this. I'm going to take this division size to like 0.1, just so it's a little bit faster. And there we go. We're not going to get as much detail, but we can see the difference, right? So now we're getting inherent velocity from our fluid source from this curl noise, right? So if I set this, you should see. Right, so this curl noise is everywhere, right? And I'm still always just adding more and more and more density to this all the time, right? What else do I want to do? What's we do here? Oh, here's the other thing. So the stop-to-dot bindings, this is actually really important when you start working with multiple fields. So right now I'm bringing in density and I'm calling it density. I'm bringing in vel, I'm calling it vel. I don't have any temperature, right? So temperature is used when you heat a volume and it's used for buoyancy, like hot air rises. You can do that, right? That's why they call it fluid steam. But I don't have any of this, right? If I wanted to use, let's say for whatever reason, I wanted to use my density as my temperature, I can do this. Boom. Now I'm taking in my density and converting it to temperature. right? So you can name it, you can name your fields whatever, right? I could say, make Bob my density and Charlie my temperature, right? It's just easier because it's just set up this way already. All right. Okay. So there's like over here in your fluid source, basically it's giving you velocity, right? And you can just straight up add velocity, like a 1. So if I do this and I do some curl noise, I should see over here, I should see my fluid rise and get some curl to it. Right now it's being pushed up by this guy. Right? So that's very subtle. So it's being pushed upwards, and then it's hitting that curl noise. So let's do something a little more interesting. So first of all, this is super boring. Actually, that's really cool. You can actually see that curl noise. See that loop there? It's like hitting that noise and going like that, right? But for the most part, this is still really boring. So how do we fix this? Right, and we can see this velocity, right? So our velocity upwards is so high, it's right. So now it's the curl noise is being pushed upwards. So visualization. I can change which plane this is on. Right.
Oh, this is
And this is actually cool. Like you can use there's a bunch of stuff out there. This is literally generating geometry. Like this is generating curves. You can use this for like a lot of really cool like motion graphic-y effects and stuff. Actually, just as a side note, for World of Warcraft, this is how they made a lot of the hair. So they basically do like a fluid sim and push like just this theoretical fluid through like these fur volumes. So basically we would paint the bottom of it and like this is where the fur is going to grow from. And then we would have like a sculpted like fur volume and then we would paint on the tips like this is where it can escape. And basically the fluid would flow up through this thing and then they would just they would just scatter particles and then grow hair and then take that and then simulate that after the fact. So they had like this automated hair growing system. It was super unstable. But the idea was really cool. Like it crashed everything. It was so heavy. It made like 50,000 hair strands per like it was awful. Anyway, but it was a cool idea to use fluids to grow hair. And you can do that in 3D as well. Okay. Stop yammering, Bentley. Okay. Where was I? Visualization. So I can turn this visualization as an XYZ or I can show it everywhere, which looks really